You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Shawn Wilkie, and along with my awesome co-host Ivan, we interview the innovators in the veterinary space every week. We've got a great episode lined up for you this week. Ivan, why don't you go ahead and introduce today's guest?
I'm Ivan Zach, and I'm happy to introduce Dr. Cindy Trice. We're going to talk about relief veterinarians and business associated with it. What we know about Cindy is that she is a founder and CEO of Relief Rover. She's a co-founder and chief innovation officer of Kick It Pajamas, which I have a lot of questions about. Winner of the Pet Project Pitch Competition at VMX 2020. So this year, congratulations. That was just
big congrats.
January. And she's a self-employed relief veterinarian, which is I'm also very excited about because that's how I built my career as a veterinarian. She graduated from University of California at Davis with DVM degree in 2004. And she's a co-author of Flex Vet, How to Be One, How to Hire One. On the personal side of things, she previously worked at corporate video production, amazing. Has a bachelor degree in communication and media studies from Cornell, enjoys traveling, paddleboarding, scuba diving, and running. What a resume for an entrepreneur. I do want to ask about pajamas. What is going on?
Yes, you don't see the connection with veterinary medicine?
Nah.
No. I mean, in some ways it was a little bit blended with my veterinary career in a way. Right after I graduated in 2004, I was in an internship for about 2 months. I was diagnosed with cancer. So I quit my internship, ended up in the hospital multiple times, and a friend of mine brought me a pair of pajamas that I loved to wear in the hospital. But I soon realized the reason that hospital pajamas have those snaps on the sleeves, because you cannot change your top when you're hooked up to an IV line. So it was a little bit problematic while I was in the hospital, but I loved wearing my own pajamas, so I did it anyway. And I thought to myself, why aren't there cute pajamas that have the functionality of being in the hospital? Fast forward several years, I'm a relief vet, and I start working at a fashion school in Tampa, and I design these pajamas. And I started learning all these things about fashion and design, and that I didn't know anything about. But I got to a point where I couldn't do anymore. It just was too far out of my skill set. I was building my career as a relief veterinarian, and so I put it in a closet. Last year, some friends who have a clothing company, we got connected, and we've restarted the pajama company. So our goal is to help women with cancer, or any hospitalized woman, feel beautiful and comfortable while they're hospitalized.
What a message. That's incredible.
Very, very, very cool.
Good for you. Amazing. What a sort of a life lesson taken to the next level. And wow. Well, relief vet, was that associated with sort of the amount of work that you could do? Because it was difficult, because that's my story. So it was two sides of becoming a veterinarian, relief veterinarian. One, first, when I was super eager to work. So I worked emergency and then relief work. So usually vets, I think that ER vets, that was my sort of thing, work 4 on, 6 off, or, some sort of a schedule when you have extended days off. And then I thought it would be cool. I'll be traveling, I'll be doing this. And then it became gritty. So I was working 4 days and then another 6 doing locums and relief vet work. And then I burned out, had to see a psychiatrist. And then I did just relief work because I didn't work a lot. So, there's those side of the spectrum. What's the story? Did you jump into the relief work, or was that sort of accommodation? Was it right out of school, or did you decide to do it sort of part-time? How did you start working as a relief vet?
Right when I graduated, I started that internship. Then I had to drop out. Once I was well enough, I went to work as an associate at a really great practice. But it bugged me that I didn't finish the internship. So I went back and I did the internship later. And after that, I had this decision to make, like, well, what am I going to do now? And so I started doing some relief work, just, I think, in a way to just see what was out there and see what different practices were like. I didn't have a firm plan of shopping for where I wanted to land, but probably that was somewhere in the back of my mind. And then what ended up happening is my husband a freelance photographer, ended up getting work in Missoula, Montana. I was like, well, relief work is perfect. So we would live 6 months in Florida and 6 months in Montana. And there was plenty of relief work to where I could have full-time work in both states. And that was when I realized, oh, this can be a career. Like, this can just be a thing that I do. And I got really interested in how you do it well and how you think about the practice as your client, rather than thinking about it as just a way to make some extra money. That was probably the beginning of the idea for Relief Rover, although I hadn't really totally formed it out at that point.
Amazing. So with a relief, there's pros and cons, and I experienced both. I just wanted to get your opinion on what are the benefits and what are the downsides. What's the difficulty to start doing it? And I think, when I started doing it full time, I was always wondering, should I go back to vet school or vet schools and talk to students? What is it like to be a relief vet? Because it's a lot of fear. We get out of school and this idea that you have to get a job is, this is how we start. And then that's a bit of a leap to kind of say, hey, I want to work for different people. It's not just one interview, it's multiple people I know, and I'm comfortable doing that. So what was your sort of experience? What are the benefits and what are the downsides?
Yeah, so I do think there are tons of benefits, of course. So one of the main benefits is variety. If you're someone who likes variety, and then you're never stuck. So if a culture isn't right for you, if a practice isn't right for you, you're not stuck there. And what I've found, speaking about culture and practices, is that I work at all kinds of practices. I'm very flexible. I'll work at a single doctor rural practice, and I'll work at, corporate specialty emergency practices and everything in between. And I like that. That suits me. But there are many practices that I work at as a relief vet that I would not want to work at as an associate, because I don't think that as a full-time employee and having to go there day in and day out, I would be able to handle, that I would enjoy the culture of the clinic. But as a relief vet, I am able to sort of tune that out. The things that might bother me as an employee do not bother me as a relief vet. So I can still work in that type of practice, come in, get to know the team members, have a good time, take care of their clients, support that practice, and not feel bound to whatever their issues are. And whenever you put people together, you have issues. It's just a fact of the human condition, I think. I haven't seen a perfect issue-free clinic yet.
Keep looking.
Yeah. Oh, I will.
So
I'll
funny.
keep it.
Yeah.
I could borrow from lots of wonderful things from lots of different clinics, and in my mind, I can create the perfect one. But
Yeah.
so that's one of the benefits. The variety. You're not locked into a culture or a system that you don't like. And I personally I get a ton of satisfaction at knowing I am helping my colleagues take a break. Because I also went through that burnout phase. I went back to being an associate for about 4.5 years in between. And I did the same thing that you did, Ivan, which is I was an associate, and then I also was side hustling some relief. Partly to keep my toe in it, partly because of the money, but I burnt myself out hard. And So I went back to relief. So relief allows you to control your own schedule so that you can work in a way that suits you and suits whatever your needs are. And our lives are very fluid, right? Like, we have these different phases in our life. Like right now, I have elderly parents. And I spent this morning helping my mom, who's 89 years old. And so I'm at a phase in my life where I need some flexibility. And then you can think of people who are parents or people who just want to wander and travel to different places. So relief work can suit your lifestyle depending on what phase of life you're in.
That's so awesome. Makes so much sense. So Cindy, a couple of things. We went over it fairly quick. VMX just wrapped up. There was 40 companies, I think, that were in the startup circle at BMX, and you guys won. That's a big deal. Congratulations. It's amazing. What did it feel like to win? And then a two-part question, like back us up and tell us how you got started with Relief Rover. How did this all happen? I mean, I think I can predict the answer, but I'd like to hear the story.
Yeah, so well, the actual idea for Relief Rover came because I was sitting at my house in Florida. I got a little ping on LinkedIn, and it was a single doctor practice in Truckee, California, which is near Lake Tahoe, which if you've never been to Lake Tahoe, it is amazingly beautiful. And she said, hey, can you cover my maternity leave? I did not know this person. She didn't know me. And she reached out to me on LinkedIn. I shouted my husband, hey, you want to go to Tahoe for the summer? And he's like, sure. So we
sounds like a pretty cool guy.
Oh yeah, we don't have any kids. He's a freelance photographer, so we do have this lifestyle where we can just throw the dogs in the car and go. But I thought, this is crazy that this practitioner, this practice owner in Truckee, California, is reaching out to a relief vet in Florida, and it worked. So we end up having a conversation. We agree to the logistics. I get out there, and I had the most amazing summer. It was basically my practice for the summer. So 5 days a week, I worked in her practice. On the weekends, I hiked. I saw my friends that I knew from vet school and from before vet school in California, and it was amazing. And what I realized is I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that's willing to go different places. People have all sorts of reasons for wanting to travel. Maybe you do have kids and grandma lives in another state and the kids are out of school for the summer, and you can go live with her and pick up relief work to help support that. Or maybe you've got a best friend who lives in Colorado and you want to go hang with them for a month. People have all sorts of reasons for wanting to move around. But at the time, my experience is that the staffing agencies and things that help support relief practitioners were very regional. And there wasn't anything that was taking a national approach. So your pool of relief vets aren't necessarily the ones in your backyard. And so I wanted to create something that was transparent, because the other thing I noticed that a lot of the other staffing agencies and platforms are not very transparent or weren't very transparent. So if you were a relief vet bidding on a job, it was very unclear what you were bidding on. And if you were a practice going to hire a relief vet, it was very unclear who they were. So I wanted something where you could actually see each other, that there was a place for you to show off what your clinic was like. So you can see pictures, you can do video, you can describe all of the things that are great about your practice, and vice versa. So that was how Relief Rover was born. And then in the startup circle, there are actually 26 companies, I believe. And it felt awesome to win. It was very unexpected. And it really helped. I don't know. I guess I felt a little validated because I created this by myself. I'm a team of one. I don't have venture capital. I don't have staff. I don't have anything like that. I'm a relief veterinarian who is just an early riser, so I can get a lot of work done in the morning, and then I go to work. And so it felt good to get that far as just one person.
So
watch out,
how
you're
did
coming.
So how did you build the team around, or what is the project like? What is the stage? What are your goals right now, or what are the next steps that you're doing? Is it a ready product? Do people sign up? Like, what does it look like?
So right now it's a membership-based platform, and it's all free. I still feel at the stage, I'm an early startup. I'm still working on my minimum viable product. I have so many ideas for how to make this more useful for all the stakeholders. And because I was doing this by myself with my own pocketbook and on my own time, I wasn't able to come in and just, create this rock star tech, but it's working. And what it is it's proving the point that there's two silos of stakeholders. There are the relief veterinarians, and there are the practices who need them. So what I realized, and I think because I had the deep and relevant experience of being a relief vet for so many years myself, is that what relief practitioners need is they need help with business resources and how to be business people. And I know that myself, I didn't want to work for a staffing agency where I was an employee of the staffing agency. And I'm not saying that that's a bad model, because I do think that there are some people where that's what they want. They want some of the benefits of being a relief vet, but then they want some of the support and benefits of being an employee. And so those to me are hybrid type things. And I think they're great and they suit one market of people, but I'm talking about the relief practitioners like myself. We truly want to be business to business service providers, and we want to do it well, and we consider the clinic our client. And we love relief work for all of those reasons we talked about before: variety, flexibility, all that kind of stuff. But we also love it because we love to serve our colleagues. There are no resources for those people, none. And there's so much, we all hear as vets, and we hear it over and over. And I think there is some truth to it, but we always hear vets aren't good business people, right? But I think we have to stop saying that. We can be good business people. We just need to learn. And especially being a relief veterinarian, because the business of being a relief veterinarian isn't that hard. It's not complicated. You're one person. You need to understand insurance, the insurances you need. You need to understand some basic marketing and how to get yourself out there. You need to understand, controlled substance laws, which we need to understand. All vets need to understand it, but you need to understand it from a relief perspective. And you need to understand your taxes and how to budget and how to do things like that. All things that can be taught. And so a big mission of Relief Rover is to support these independent contractors and allow them to be good business people and great business to business service providers, and let them stay autonomous if they want to be autonomous. We don't need to bundle them all up as employees and then farm them out and treat them like commodities to be traded. We can build them up. Then on the employer silo, what they need to find these relief vets. They need to be connected to them, and they need to know where their pool is. And like I said, that their pool may not only be the ones in their backyard, particularly for longer term gigs like maternity leaves or sabbaticals, which frankly, as you know, Ivan, from getting burnt out, sabbaticals should be more of a thing in our industry. That is the position I'm taking for Relief Rover, is to support those people and to support them as business to business service providers. And I think that's what's unique about Relief Rover.
Yeah, it's super unique, Cindy. It's really, really interesting. I think episode 22, we had Lisa Hu from Rue.vet. And
Yes.
So they've got a more developed, it sounds like, business plan. But it's really interesting to hear your passion. It's almost like your personal mission to kind of help your profession. But I can't help but ask, how are you going to make money?
Fair question. I probably can't win enough pitch competitions to make it.
Most companies do. They just borrow money and then they go kaboom. So
Right. Yeah. So ultimately a membership-based platform. So the relief veterinarians, there will always be a free model for them. So it'll be freemium for them. We have all sorts of plans and ideas for developing business resources in depth for them, and they can then have a premium membership that they would pay for. And we will help them with things like setting up their QuickBooks, contracts, sort of legal advice, things like that. We will basically help them put their business in a box. So that would be a paid membership. But we always want them to have the ability to come on and look at jobs and post their resume if that's what they choose to do. There's also a community side to it. We have forums and groups. Relief vets can talk amongst each other and ask each other questions and things like that. All of that part is free. Then the practices, of course, they will pay. And again, a membership model. And what a practice gets for that membership, they get the ability to post jobs. They get the ability to search for and reach out to relief veterinarians. And we're building resources for them as well, because they need resources. They need to understand, how workers' comp works in their practice when you have a relief vet on board. And you would be amazed at how many of them have no understanding of that at all. Same with controlled substances. So we're working on building a group of service providers, lawyers, CPAs, insurance specialists, financial advisors, and controlled substance specialists, that they will also, for their membership, they're going to have some resources, some education on that, surrounding that as it relates to using independent contractors in your practice. The service providers that want to be put in front of these potential customers, there will be membership fees for them. And then hopefully, because we're building, we're already almost at 2,000 members. And that is with virtually zero marketing spend. I didn't have a marketing budget. So what I've done is this has been through word of mouth, through social media, through industry media channels. So there's no advertising budget, and we're already to 2,000 members without an advertising budget. So in the future,
incredible.
If we can have that, I feel like we can build it.
It's a very strong message, and Shawn mentioned the other startup in this area, and I think that your passion behind it and the experience is what probably getting you those members, because this was one of my big dreams to create something like this, specifically just like you were saying, with the support, with the legal support, with the accounting support, and this is something that needs to be taught, I think, in vet school. I mean, how much business are we taught? There's 2 schools that provide an MBA degree, which is phenomenal. We had 1 2-week course, which I was just floored with, by John Tate. It was an incredible, he's a Canadian guy that built the groups of practices, and he was so interesting, but it was only, I think, 1 or 2 weeks experience, and it was not enough. And then you get out there and you start experimenting, and you get into all of these, troubles, because you didn't know how to do tax. You didn't know what's the legal precautions. And then on the con side of things of being a relief vet, because some employers will not treat you well because you don't know your rights. And this whole balance between the contractor and employee, when you don't know it right, you could be mistreated as a contractor where some things shouldn't be the way they are. This is an incredible venture, and I'm really happy that you're doing this. I think it's very important for the industry. Unfortunately, I think we're out of time. It's just on one sort of breath. So, happy to follow your progress and basically know what's going on and see how we can help. Either say anything, this I think will help and spread the word a little further.
Super inspiring story. Congratulations on winning again. Like Ivan said, your passion for what you're doing is infectious. It's been super fun to chat with you. We always ask a couple of questions when we wrap up. First is, what's inspired you to be who you are? Have you read anything or anything that you'd recommend to our listeners to check out? A book, a TED Talk, whatever it might be.
Yeah, so one book, and this was from, I think you guys have interviewed her, Stacy Santee. When I decided to do this, I reached out to anyone I could find who would talk to me and basically said, how did you go from being a clinical veterinarian to being an entrepreneur? And so she was so sweet and talked to me on the phone, and she sent me this book called The Art of the Start. It's Guy Kawasaki. And
oh my God. Yeah.
So I don't know if that one has been recommended before on your podcast, but she sent that to me. And I just thought that was the kindest thing. She inspires me. Stacey.
She's awesome. I spent 20 minutes with her at VMX, and it's so nice to see her every time. And yeah, Stacey's one of my favorite people. So check her episode out if you haven't, because it's really worth listening to. Last question.
The best ones.
I think it was one of our favorite ones. She's just so fun to talk to, and she's just such a nice human. She's like awesome.
Yeah, be nice. It wasn't our favorite ones, but listeners. We love them all equally.
That's right. Thanks, Ivan. Thanks for catching that. And then the last thing for you, Cindy, is any other innovators in the vet space that you think we should reach out to and have on the podcast?
Well, I know there is, because I've been working with them some, and they've been helping me out, a company called AirVet. Brandon Werber is their founder and CEO, and they're doing telehealth, but they're doing it in a way I really feel that is making both sides happy, the clients and the vets. Like they're trying to do something that works for both parties on the end of that.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinaryiinnovationpodcast.com. See you next week.